You're looking at the intact brain laid out for dissection and on the Anatomage table next to it. Let's orient ourselves to its surface landmarks, lobes, gyri, sulci, and deeper structures as you would see them in both real specimens and digital models. First, hold the brain in your hands and turn it so you are viewing the superior surface. You'll immediately notice the longitudinal cerebral fissure dividing the two hemispheres. Along each hemisphere you can trace the central sulcus, running roughly from the superior midline down toward the lateral sulcus. Anterior to that is the frontal lobe, posterior is the parietal lobe. On the Anatomage view, highlight the precentral gyrus just anterior to the central sulcus, that's the primary motor cortex. Behind the central sulcus is the postcentral gyrus, the primary somatosensory cortex. Next, rotate the brain laterally. The lateral sulcus separates the frontal and parietal lobes above from the temporal lobe below. Running along the superior temporal gyrus you'll find the primary auditory cortex tucked in the transverse temporal gyri of Heschl. Deeper in the lateral sulcus lies the insula. Peel back the opercula to reveal it on the digital model. Move now to the inferior surface. Identify the orbital gyri of the frontal lobes resting over the orbits. Posterior to them the gyrus rectus and olfactory sulci mark the olfactory bulbs and tracts. Further back you'll see the temporal poles and the parahippocampal gyri flanking the uncal region, key landmarks for the hippocampus hidden beneath. Flip the brain to view the medial surface of one hemisphere. Trace the cingulate gyrus arching above the corpus callosum. Below it, the callosal sulcus outlines the callosum itself. Highlight the corpus callosum on the Anatomage display and follow its C-shaped arc into the genu anteriorly and splenium posteriorly. On the medial cut, expose the hypothalamus sitting just below the thalamus, with the mammillary bodies as small rounded bumps on its underside. The third ventricle runs between the two thalami. Through the Anatomage you can slice to show its cavity and the fornix arching over it. Turn back to the lateral view and probe the sylvian fissure deeper to reveal the insula and the extreme capsule. On the Anatomage, toggle white matter tracks to show the superior longitudinal fasciculus connecting frontal and parietal lobes, and the uncinate fasciculus linking orbitofrontal cortex to the temporal pole. Now zoom out and look at the cerebellum tucked beneath the occipital lobes. Identify the horizontal sulci separating it into anterior and posterior lobes. On the model, highlight the dentate nucleus by slicing away the cerebellar cortex. Return to the posterior view of the brain. The occipital lobes dominate, with the parieto-occipital sulcus marking the boundary dorsally. In the calcarine fissure on the medial surface lies the primary visual cortex. Trace it on both specimen and screen and note its V-shaped contour. Finally, look at deep structures via a mid-sagittal dissection on the Anatomage. Expose the caudate nucleus hugging the lateral ventricle, the putamen and globus pallidus forming the lentiform nucleus, and the internal capsule's descending fibers. Move deeper to reveal the thalamus and the brainstem connection, the midbrain, pons, and medulla. Throughout this exploration you can switch between gross dissection and the virtual Anatomage slices to correlate surface landmarks with underlying pathways and nuclei. This integrated approach to topography makes the brain's complex three-dimensional architecture comprehensible, guiding your dissection knife and your clinical understanding alike.